Welcome, my divine friends from YouTube. Welcome to my home for the holidays. I can't wait to show you around. It's going to be a quiet luxury holiday. Follow me. Happy holidays, everyone. The point of this particular YouTube is to show you exactly how you can decorate your home in a way that's you, so that you get the exact sentiment from your guests who are going to be visiting you, and you feel a certain way when you're in your home, because that's really what it's about. It's about feeling the holidays in your soul and what speaks to you. So every year I do a mantle, and every year I change it up. And this year I decided to do something a little bit more, shall we say, over the top, but in a way that is subtle, if that makes sense. It's sort of an oxymoron, but the reason I did that is because I find myself attracted more and more day to day to things that are artsy and original and unique and not so perfect. Now, you guys have heard me talk about this. I like perfect linear symmetry in design, but I like imperfect art, I like imperfect objects, and I like imperfect decor. So let's get right into it. I'm going to show you a step-by-step of how I did this mantle and how you can easily do this. No joke about this. You can absolutely do this with just a little bit of tutorial and just a little bit of thought through. And I'm going to talk about my foyer table, how I decided to style that. To me, that's holiday. It might not be to everyone, but to me, pomegranates, round pomegranates, are no different than ornaments. So it all started in the flower market when we sourced all of these items. And I really like to go and pick my specific foliage, because you're never going to know what it feels like, smells like, unless you're there. So going to the flower market is a very important part of getting your holidays together. So the very first thing we did is that we grabbed a 25-foot piece of garland. That's going to be the main item that you're going to purchase, and we draped it all over the mantle. We're going to be showing you videos throughout this video that will show you the process. Once our garland was set in place, then the real art started to happen. So the easiest way to do this is not to just try and make these things stand on their own. That'll never happen. We grabbed some white vases because I've got basically white walls. And the first thing we did is that we added the Arizona cypress into a vase. So we created two arrangements. One arrangement here, another arrangement here, that looked very interesting to us and sculptural, and we placed them on each side of the fireplace. It is very important that you do not make them identical. We're not looking for symmetry when it comes to our fireplace. We want one place that is wild and big and crazy, and then we want something that's a little bit more subtle. That's the trick. And you must have negative space. One of my favorite plants during the holidays is the Arizona cypress, because of the fact that it has a color that is very much in contrast and it looks a little bit snowy. So we anchored this entire fireplace with the Arizona cypress. And those are the first things that we placed in the vases that are behind these, this sort of sculptural foliage. And of course, we have our curlicues, our branches. You can use anything with height, anything that speaks to you, anything that you locate. So then we wanted to cover up the vases because we want them to sort of disappear in the background and make it look like this is just standing on its own. So these giant, beautiful leaves, Alocasia odora, that's what they're called. And you can pick any large leaf, whether it be a palm leaf or anything that speaks to you. And we started basically placing them inside the garland, which has some grip, and then we were tying them with fish wire. So a little bit of fishing wire, and we also placed the leaves inside of the vases that are behind here that you can't see, that are camouflaged. And then the best part, the most fun that we had, was to place the moss. So one of the tricks is to get different species of the same plant. So the garland is one specific pine, and this pine that we added, which I love because it's very sculptural, is fir, which you guys are probably familiar with, which are a lot of trees in California are made of this particular pine. And then we added the silver brunia because it kind of reminded me of little white Christmas ornaments or a little bit of snow. And by the way, one thing that you want are things that are droopy to give it this high-low impact. And of course, I could not live without my favorite beautiful flower called amaranthus. These are, to me, a work of art. I mean, you would think someone, shall we say, of higher power, has literally thread these gorgeous little beautiful flowers together to create what I think is really a genius and one of the most beautiful flowers that are available. So if you can, find things that are exotic, find things that are different, and mix them together. The very last thing we did was to add the Spanish moss. This is the final touch. And what I love about Spanish moss is, again, it has more of a silvery color because you want to have depth of color. You want to have different shades of green. And Spanish moss, unlike regular moss, is very malleable. So essentially Spanish moss adheres to each other very easily. They're like spider legs, and they just attach to whatever you add to them and whatever you add to. So this was really easy to add the Spanish moss. And again, think of it artistically. Don't overthink, don't look for symmetry, but find places that you think could use a pop of interest, like the Spanish moss here. I had an extra piece of garland finally, and I had it just fall here. This is what I tied with fish wire to the original garland. And all in all, with our branches, this is our creation. For the foyer table, I always have a large arrangement. One year I literally cut pine trees from my backyard, like branches, put them in, and I had a plethora of them. I sent them to my mom. And she said, "Oh, that's beautiful, honey. Where are the ornaments?" And I said, "Mom, this is the arrangement. This is not a tree with ornaments." Anyway, it was really sweet. So what I did this year is every year I pick one type of species and I stick it as much as I can into this large vase that I have on the foyer table. And this year I chose rose sumac because I love the fact that it has these little red flowers that remind me of Christmas and of course the holidays. And then I did a bowl of pine cones. And then I had a lot of this Spanish moss left over, so I just stuck it in the bowl. So again, it's not about overthinking it. It's about buying materials and buying plants and flowers that you love that remind you of the holidays, and then playing throughout the house with them. Whatever extra you have, you create little arrangements and you stick them throughout your home. Two other areas we decorated outside of the tree were the dining room. I just added a bunch of magnolia branches. They were cutting them down in the street, so I stopped my car, almost collided with the construction workers, and I said, "May I have some magnolia branches?" You can do that too, especially because the winter is when everybody's cutting down their tree. So I grabbed a bunch of magnolia and I created these beautiful little arrangements. And they're not so little and they have a big impact. To me, this reminds me of the holidays. And in my family room, I had to share with you, I took a big piece of this fern pine, I threw it down, put some candlesticks in it, and that was my holiday decor. I wanted to take this special moment to acknowledge every single one of you and all my new followers on YouTube. You guys have made this year incredible for me. I wish you guys a very safe holiday season with your family and loved ones. Remember to be present and remember to appreciate each other. Again, I can't wait to see you guys again here next week on the Red Elevator.